to begin with, when she was talking about smiling to the bank, I thought I could do with some of the money. But on a more serious note, I'm in the business of helping businesses take advantage of opportunities. And so let me talk from that angle, and I'll come to your question. One of the things I saw with COVID is that many businesses were not prepared, like Senor said, but you can't prepare for COVID. So when I say business were not prepared, it's simply because they didn't have the usual business continuity plans. Even for those who had, you couldn't have, imagined that it would come from a pandemic. The challenge is that when the pandemic hit, many didn't know how to activate the business continuity plans in terms of ensuring that first you are sustaining the business in its current state, two, preventing deterioration, and three, strategizing to take advantage of any opportunity that may emerge. And many businesses failed in that regard. And just to give you an example, one of the very large corporates we represent had a situation where they had not managed their contracts in such a way that people were defaulting and using force majeure as an excuse for defaulting, which leads to losses. So that's one way I look at it. The other way to look at it is, I found that many of the businesses that we advise, and this is not just businesses, but maybe even the public sector, we seem to think that one event is the only thing happening. And just give me a minute to explain that. Everybody has been talking about COVID since March, and COVID, and this is why we are here, we're talking about COVID. The COVID is just not the only thing happening. If you look at COVID as the only thing happening, it may be a mistake. Let me just give you a couple of examples. Between 2015 and now, the banking sector had challenges until it was restructured. So businesses slowed down as a result of those who were relying on certain type of banks. So the financial sector had challenges. Once the financial sector was stabilizing, you had a situation where COVID hits. Then you have a situation where other global events is happening. So COVID is only a trigger. And businesses tend to focus on the COVID effect to plan their long-term risk strategizing. I think that's another thing that we want businesses ought to look at. In terms of the question regarding whether the financing houses are lending to the wrong sector, etc., I think they are like any other business. They tend to be too conventional. I think with COVID, the biggest lesson is that businesses must learn to be very unconventional. The question is whether or not anything will change. Sad to say, I don't think a lot will change. And just permit me a couple of minutes to illustrate. There was 2009, if I remember, big disaster at Accra Sports Stadium because of a house match. May 9th. Has anything really changed about the way we manage our stadium? Flood at Kwame Nkrumah Circle, people died when there was a fire at Goyle. Hasn't there been another fire again at the pedestrian market? So disaster has never really changed us as a people. We are known not to learn our lessons. This type of disaster is a pandemic. It just happens to be global, and so we are all focused on it. But will it really change? Let me just look around this room to make it very easy. GIPC just spoke, foreign direct investment, so we are doing our job. Good. Is that really our job? What about local direct investments? What is the data? Is there any direction showing that GIP has changed this thinking in this redirection of supply chains to say that this is the data regarding local direct investments and the direction we are going over the next decade? I haven't heard that. Maybe she has the data, and I work with them and we are always arguing. We need to have a strategic change of our thinking. Without that, nothing is going to happen. We are holding this session because of the support of GIZ. Otherwise, IMANI is going to dry down. Apart from a few like Senor, and I must commend you the effort you put together in helping build the Professional Business Center. That's private sector action. We need more of that. But you look around this room and just say if anything will change. And I will make a surprising analysis that will surprise you. The chair you are sitting on is not made in Ghana. I don't have any doubt about that. I can look at the chair and I can see the pass. The shoe you are wearing, I'm not so sure whether it's made in Ghana. Even if it is, the leather was imported. The socks is not made in Ghana. The trousers is not made in Ghana. The tie, the shirt, the watch is not made in Ghana. The microphone is not made in Ghana. The curtain behind you is not made in Ghana. The carpet, the wood, the microphone, the screens, apart from the water, the labor, and the cement and the sand, nothing was made in Ghana. Has anything really changed? COVID as a result of disaster. PPEs and the N95 mask, those will stop. We stop using them by 2022. They are temporary businesses, and we should stop deceiving ourselves about the long-term redirection of supply chains into this country until we make a fundamental change in thinking and say we are going to do this and localize it, until we stop measuring GDP and measuring gross national product. You have foreign direct investments. What it means is that the results will be repatriated and your currency will suffer. Until you make that change, when Guta will now not be importing from China and say they heard that the COVID was coming from China, but they will be importing from Nigeria or Togo and exporting to Togo. Until you realize that food consumption, urban food consumption in Africa has grown from $15 billion per annum to $35 billion as at yesterday, and is expected to grow to $110 billion by 2025 and $150 billion by 2030. The gentleman here who adds value to YAB, if he cannot supply 20,000 orders, how is he going to supply 20,000 metric tons if AFC, FTA starts and the other booms? He cannot, because we are not laying the basis for consolidation and aggregation or supporting him to do that. So nothing is changing. COVID-19 is only an example of our failure. And unless we realize that it is a lesson for us to change our thinking and move forward, we will come back 3 years and have the same conversation. Thank you. The strategy belongs to the rank of the ladder you occupy. I didn't have that 10 years ago, now I do. I don't believe that Ghana should be thinking about happiness index at this stage. I think we should be thinking across domestic products. I think we should be organizing conferences on domestic investments. I am not against foreign direct investors, but until your domestic investors grow, I mean, just look at AGI and said, and I'm a member of the AGI Council. Our thinking is a problem as a business sector in Ghana. I'm always arguing, we've been doing business barometer index for so long. I will stop doing it. Why? Because I will look at not the business confidence that we measure every quarter, which is good, but with COVID, I look at what government procures. Government is the largest buyer of goods, works, and services. Goods, works, and services, how much of them has government directly directed should go to local consumers in numbers? That is what I want to measure. So every quarter, I want to see how AGI members are getting more of the businesses. Without that, GDP is not going to help you. That's the point. That's why COVID will drop your GDP from 6.8 to 0.9. That's the point. Look, businesses which are going to survive the AFCFTA are businesses which have got internalized business-to-business relationship and buy from each other. They are the ones who will suffer less from COVID. I think we are seeing COVID as if it is the whole. COVID is a trigger of weaknesses that have existed in the system for so long. That's what we should realize. No, it looks like